Hey everyone. In this lesson, we're going to take a look at how to identify whether two lines are parallel or perpendicular based on their slope. So the first thing we see here is the property of parallel lines. Two or more lines that are parallel have the same slope, and they also are going to have a different y-intercept. If they're the same slope and the same y-intercept, they're the exact same line. Okay. Given the following equations, how do you know that these are parallel? Well, let's take a look at the slope. We have 2/3 and we have 4/6. They both have a different y-intercept. One is 2 and one is 5. All right, so the slope of this one is 2/3 based on slope-intercept form. And 4/6 we know also reduces to 2/3. All right, same slope, different y-intercept, so that means that these two equations, if graphed, would be parallel. Okay, so just a quick example. Which of the following pairs of lines that we see here are parallel to one another? A, we have 3/4 as the first slope and 4/3 as the second slope. Same numbers, but they're not the exact same slope here, so A will not be parallel. Okay, the second one, we have y equals 2x minus 5, and we have y equals 2x minus 2. Both have a slope of 2, both have a different y-intercept, so this one would be parallel. And C, we have 4/5 as the slope for the first one. We have 8/10 as the slope for the second one. Again, similar to the last example that we did, slope of this one is 4/5. The slope of this one, if you reduce 8 over 10, divide both by 2, you'd also get 4/5. So this one is also parallel. All right, let's take a look at perpendicular. Okay, so properties of perpendicular lines. A slope of a line is perpendicular if they have the opposite reciprocal of one another. Okay, so what's the slope of a line that is perpendicular to y equals 1/2 x plus 2? Now, when I use the words opposite reciprocal, what that means is I'm taking my initial slope and I'm flipping it and I'm changing the sign. So if it's positive, it becomes negative. If it's negative, it becomes positive. Okay, so the slope of this one we see is going to start out as 1/2. Now, the slope of something that's perpendicular to that, okay, would be the opposite reciprocal, okay, which means we have 1/2. The reciprocal is 2/1, and the opposite, it's positive, becomes negative. Therefore, my perpendicular slope would be -2. Okay, again, you're just flipping and changing the sign when you're doing this. All right, let's take a look at a couple more examples of perpendicular. Given the equation of the line, find the slope of a line perpendicular to it. Okay, so for A, we see our slope here is -1/3. Okay, so the slope of something that's perpendicular to that, okay, I'm going to use the subscript perp for perpendicular. -1/3 means I'm flipping it, so it becomes 3/1. And if it's negative initially, it becomes positive. So it's going to be +3. Okay, here we have the slope of 2/1, so the initial slope is 2/1. And the slope of something that is perpendicular to it, or a line that's perpendicular to it, you would flip it. So 2/1 becomes 1/2. It's initially positive, so it becomes negative in the answer. Okay, so again, parallel means they have the same slope and a different y-intercept. Perpendicular, they can actually have the same y-intercept to be perpendicular, but they must have their slopes be opposite reciprocals of one another. So again, you're flipping it and changing the sign to make it a perpendicular slope.